The lawsuit just listed 10 unnamed defendants. Dozed 1 through 10 and accused them of some damaging of privacy.
If they would have won against him, a guy whose dream was to be a Hollywood actor, producer, director, they could have crushed his career if they would have won.
Ryan, I would say, in my opinion, is plausibly the most guilty party of this entire thing.
I know this gets overused now, but she did FAFO. Like, she thought she could blame all of her negative press on him. He's a weakling. She's Blake Lively with Ryan Reynolds, her dragon. And she decided, I can't take 1 month worth of negative press.
I haven't given myself time to recover or time to heal. I had a intense year.
Amid the ongoing legal battle between Justin Baldoni and Blake Lively, an interview recorded prior to the lawsuits has been released where Baldoni alludes to having a difficult year.
Did Ryan Reynolds ditch Blake Lively at the premiere of Another Simple Favor to save his own career? Colonel Kurtz, who trolled Blake at the premiere. Speaking of the premiere, we're going to talk about this red carpet. Why wasn't Ryan Reynolds there?
They're done. And it's no wonder everyone avoided them like the plague.
TMZ just dropped a bomb on Blake Lively.
There's always friction that happens when you make a movie like this.
This ends with me. I'm done. I'm tired.
It's my favorite story, I think, in showbiz this year. The Justin Baldoni war with Blake Lively, which seems to me, initially I felt quite sorry for Blake Lively. Then I've been reading all the messages between them all, and which he's been putting out, obviously. And it just seems like a pair of absolute weapons-grade narcissists.
The judge in the It Ends With Us case just denied Blake Lively. But does Ryan Reynolds have a smoking gun that he's been holding out on? Oh man, Blake Lively just got denied. Pretty rough. I didn't see that coming, I gotta be honest. Just to recap before we get to the judge's verdict to explain what happened here, she requested more time. Words coming in from the celebrities at the Saturday Night Live 50th anniversary asking why Blake Lively and Ryan Reynolds were even there.
This text from Blake Lively is insane. If you knew me in person longer, you'd have a sense of how flirty and yummy the ball busting would play.
Why would you show up to this event that's literally run by your ex's husband? It's a lot of people have caught this, and I gotta echo it again.
I defend Justin Baldoni in this lawsuit with Blake Lively because I think she's horrible and she's made up this whole thing because she tried to steal his movie. But he is the most overly feminized man.
Justin Baldoni just turned the legal tables, and what he uncovered about Blake Lively could change everything. It all started quietly, behind closed doors. No press, no red carpets, no headlines. Just a bland lawsuit filed in Manhattan Supreme Court on a random day in late September. At first glance, it looked like nothing more than routine legal noise. The plaintiff? A company called Van Zandt. Never heard of it? That's exactly how it was designed. The case didn't name Justin Baldoni or anyone else in Hollywood. Instead, it targeted John Does 1 through 10. 10 unnamed individuals accused of vague but serious offenses like violating privacy and damaging someone's reputation. No faces, no direct connections. Just a shadowy legal move that stayed hidden from the public eye. But this wasn't just legal busywork. It was something far more calculated. Beneath the legal jargon and blank identifiers, the real purpose of the lawsuit was buried. Van Zandt wasn't a real company in the traditional sense. It didn't sell anything, produce anything, or employ anyone outside a legal filing. It was a tool, a Trojan horse. And while its name gave off corporate ambiguity, its purpose was razor sharp. The lawsuit was never about winning in court. It was about unlocking subpoena power. Filing a claim, any claim, meant that the company could legally demand access to private documents, internal emails, and personal conversations from parties they hadn't even named yet. Then came the twist no one saw coming. While Van Zandt had been legally registered in Delaware, a state known for its corporate secrecy, the company eventually had to do business in California, and that's where the disguise fell apart. Under California law, companies must disclose their officers. Once the paperwork became public, it was impossible to ignore. Van Zandt was owned and operated by one person, the CEO, the CFO, the secretary, all the same name. Blake Lively, the actress, the movie star, Ryan Reynolds' wife. She wasn't just involved in this legal game, she was the one pulling every string. With that revelation, everything changed. what looked like a faceless corporate case turned into a bombshell. Blake Lively hadn't just sued someone, she'd created an entire legal entity, disguised behind layers of anonymity, and used it to secretly launch a legal attack with no fingerprints. Until now. And that's when everything snapped into focus. Every blurred line suddenly sharp. Every unanswered question suddenly clear. The pieces of the puzzle weren't random anymore. Blake Lively had filed a lawsuit through Van Zandt on September 27th, cloaked in corporate anonymity. But this wasn't about right or wrong. It wasn't even about winning. It was about access. Filing that lawsuit gave her the legal right to issue subpoenas, to demand private texts, confidential emails, and internal conversations from people connected to Justin Baldoni. This wasn't justice. It was strategy. The tactic is known in legal circles as a fishing expedition. You throw out a case, not because it has strong legal legs, but because it opens the gates to discovery. You don't need to prove anything right away. All you need is a court docket and a signature. And with that, the subpoenas flew. Lawyers complied, communications were handed over, text chains, emails, crisis management conversations. What Blake was looking for, she got. And once the information landed in her hands, the case that started it all, quietly, anonymously, was shut down. On December 19th, Van Zandt abruptly dropped the lawsuit. Just like that, it vanished. No explanation, no closure. But by then, it had served its purpose. The very next day, Blake Lively made her move in the spotlight. On December 20th, she filed a civil rights complaint in California, this time under her own name. No shell companies, no hidden agendas, at least not on paper. And just days later, on New Year's Eve, she escalated it into a full-fledged lawsuit. This time, the gloves came off. She named Justin Baldoni directly, along with his publicist, his crisis PR specialist, Wayfarer Studios, and the production company tied to It Ends With Us. The lawsuit accused Baldoni of harassment, retaliation, and orchestrating a smear campaign against her. But now, the context behind that lawsuit has been exposed. The so-called evidence backing her claims, the texts, the emails, the receipts, didn't fall into her lap by accident. She got them through a legal stunt, a lawsuit she created, a company she controlled, a system she manipulated. What looked like a victim standing up for herself was, in fact, the result of a months-long plan to quietly extract information before launching a public attack. With that revelation, the nature of this legal war changed completely. What Blake framed as retaliation from Baldoni now looked to many like retaliation of her own, carried out with silence, secrecy, and surgical precision. And here's where the drama deepens, and the courtroom turns into a battlefield. Both legal teams are now locked in a brutal tug-of-war, and neither side is showing signs of surrender. On one side stands Justin Baldoni, backed by powerhouse attorney Brian Friedman, a name known for handling some of the most explosive Hollywood disputes. Friedman isn't mincing words. He's accusing Blake Lively of manipulating the justice system itself. In his words, the Van Zandt lawsuit wasn't just sneaky, it was an outright abusive process. That's a serious legal accusation, one that doesn't just suggest bad behavior, but implies a calculated attempt to weaponize the courts for personal gain. According to Friedman, Blake didn't follow standard legal procedure. She didn't notify Baldoni or his team that she was digging for evidence. Instead, she went behind the curtain, created a fake front, Van Zandt, and used it to quietly send subpoenas to people tied to Baldoni's inner circle. No warnings, no chance to object, no opportunity to prepare. And once she got what she wanted, once the texts and internal communications were in her hands, she dropped the case like it never existed. Friedman says that move alone could land Blake in legal trouble. He's already gone public with a promise. Every action allowable under the law will be taken against her. That includes potential sanctions, counterclaims, and possibly even a move to have her case thrown out entirely. But Blake's legal team is coming just as hard. Her lawyers are painting a completely different picture, one of a woman targeted by a coordinated and malicious smear campaign. They insist the lawsuit wasn't a sham, but a strategic and legal tool, a way to gather the evidence they say they couldn't access otherwise. And what they found? According to Blake's team, it was damning. They claim the documents revealed texts, emails, and internal strategies where Baldoni's camp discussed how to publicly discredit her, manage the fallout, and control the narrative. In their eyes, that's not just PR, it's retaliation. But Baldoni's side is ripping those claims apart. Friedman says the so-called evidence Blake is clinging to is built on half-truths and cherry-picked context. He claims the texts were stripped from their original threads, heavily edited, and rearranged to support a false narrative. He insists that when read in their full original form, those messages show nothing more than standard communication between a publicist and a crisis management consultant, exactly what any high-profile figure would do when facing public allegations. And that's the legal powder keg. Blake's team says they've uncovered a plan to ruin her. Baldoni's team says they've been framed with manipulated evidence. Both sides believe the law is on their side. Both claim the other is abusing the system. And now, with the truth buried somewhere in reams of discovery documents, text logs, and deposition schedules, the outcome may not be decided by who's right, but by who the court believes first. What started as a secret filing has now erupted into a full-scale war where every legal trick, technicality, and piece of paper matters. And the next move could be the one that blows the entire case wide open. And now, the curtain has been pulled back, and the public is seeing a side of this Hollywood feud that no one could have predicted. What started as a quiet, behind-the-scenes legal scuffle has exploded into a full-blown legal drama worthy of its own courtroom series. In a matter of weeks, Blake Lively has gone from celebrated actress and co-star in a highly anticipated film to a central figure in a calculated legal ambush, one that she didn't just participate in, but allegedly engineered from the top down. She didn't send a legal team to do the dirty work. She created the stage herself. As the sole executive behind Van Zandt, she effectively became her own legal gatekeeper, pulling strings, crafting subpoenas, and directing the flow of private information like a corporate puppet master operating from the shadows. Now that the layers have been peeled away and the truth is beginning to surface, the focus isn't just on whether Blake Lively's allegations against Justin Baldoni are true. It's about whether her entire legal strategy was built on deception. Was it a smart, if controversial, tactic, or was it a deliberate abuse of the court system? That's the question looming over this case. Because while the court may allow certain creative legal maneuvers, it draws a hard line at manipulation. And if the judge determines that the Van Zandt lawsuit was never meant to resolve a real dispute, but was filed solely to dig up dirt under false pretenses, the consequences won't just fall on Blake's legal team. They could fall on her personally. Justin Baldoni's side says they're ready. They claim that through the court-ordered discovery process, the real kind, not the backdoor version, they've uncovered even more evidence. Real receipts, unaltered messages. Context that tells a story very different from the one Blake Lively is selling. His attorney, Brian Friedman, has already gone public, warning that what's coming next will completely dismantle the narrative being pushed by Blake's camp. And he's not bluffing. Every message, every subpoena, every deposition is now under a microscope. But Blake's legal team isn't retreating. They're doubling down, sticking to their claim that everything they did was within the bounds of the law. They insist the Van Zandt case followed proper procedures and was a justified legal action to uncover wrongdoing. Their defense? This is how civil litigation works. You identify potential harm and you investigate, even if it means getting creative with how you open the door. But here's the problem. Judges hate being manipulated. Courts are built on structure, order, and due process. When someone is accused of using that system as a tool of personal revenge or private espionage, it turns the courtroom into a weaponized arena. And judges don't forget that. If the court agrees with Baldoni's team and sees the Van Zandt lawsuit as a ruse, the case could unravel fast. Sanctions could follow. Even her main lawsuit could be tossed out, and her legal credibility permanently damaged. This is no longer just a celebrity feud aired out on social media. This is a high-stakes legal chess match being played in real time, complete with shell companies, cloak and dagger subpoenas, and legal strategies sharp enough to draw blood. Every move matters. Every document could shift the balance. And both sides know that one misstep could cost everything. Because at this level of courtroom warfare, it's not just about who's right, it's about who survives the endgame.